Welcome to ECTEL Bytes, a production of the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority. I'm your host, Embert Charles, ECTEL's Communications and Media Relations Manager. ECTEL is the regional regulatory body advising the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commissions, that's the NTRCs, on electronic communications or telecommunications matters in our 5 member states, namely the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So, on our last show, we celebrated Girls in ICT Day. Can anyone guess what observance we're celebrating today? So if you guessed World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, then you are correct. Last Tuesday on May 17th, the World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, or WTISD, quite a lot of letters, was observed under the theme, Digital Technologies for Older Persons and Healthy Aging. According to the ITU, that's the International Telecommunication Union, in 2020, there were an estimated 727 million people aged 65 years or older in the world. That number is projected to double to 1.5 billion by 2050. For decades, older generations have been considered as a vulnerable group and even a burden on younger generations. So ECTEL's contribution to this global observance is to discuss the issues affecting older persons when it comes to digital technologies and some of the opportunities they can benefit from in the digital world. Our special guest is Mr. Embert Charles, Communications and ICT Consultant and former Managing Director of ECTEL. Welcome, Mr. Charles.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you, Coretta, and your followers.
So we're going to jump right into it because I have a lot of questions for you. The first one I have is, what are some of the barriers or difficulties older persons encounter, especially in the Eastern Caribbean, when it comes to navigating the fast-paced landscape of digital technology?
Okay, well, thanks for having me on the show. Of course, the barriers that older people face relate to the fact that they're getting old. And a number of their faculties are either failing or are diminishing in terms of the efficiencies and effectiveness, which applies to the use of ICTs and technology. For instance, generally, eyesights are getting worse. We all past 50 start to wear glasses and sometimes stronger lens and prescriptions. The hearing is affected as well. There are sometimes the use of touch technologies are affected because people's hands and fingers, they change in texture and structure. There's the issue of mobility to move from point A to point B is also affected. But more significantly is the question of the purchasing power of the majority of older persons after you have retired. Then your incomes are lower. So the affordability for the technology you need is sometimes significantly reduced. So you may have to take second-rate technology. You may have to take second-rate solutions within the technology because of your inability to have the purchasing power, which the first comers actually log on to when technology is available. So these are general issues affecting all of us. In the case of the Eastern Caribbean in particular, is the question of the options available to us. We are essentially the takers of technology and technological products. We don't produce anything ourselves. So most of them would have probably been designed for temperate countries, for developed countries, and especially the use of issues like language and so forth. So one has to accept these and try to adapt them to our uses here. Again, the question of affordability. The purchasing power of people generally in developed countries is usually higher because the per capita income is higher. And as a result, it's a struggle for older persons to buy the technology they need. Right now, it's difficult for us in this part of the world to get non-smartphones, which a lot of the older persons may find themselves comfortable using, because non-smartphone production is going out. So they have to get two smartphones, and then we go into the issue of adapting to the use of smartphones and smart devices.
So I was just saying, you listed quite a few of the barriers and challenges, but there's a colleague of mine who I told about a specific job, and she's a bit, she's older than I am, probably in her 50s. And she's like, she's not comfortable applying for it because she doesn't think she stands a chance against younger people. So I think too, that's one of the issues or challenges older persons face right now, not feeling comfortable using the technology required for certain jobs.
Yes. I think the challenge is that the older persons don't feel they have a frame of reference to adapt quickly to technology. Young people actually, the distinction between digital natives and digital aliens. So the majority of young people are actually native to the technology. They are born into it. This is their language. It's like an indigenous person who comes out of the community, who have grown up there all their lives, and suddenly gets into an urban area and doesn't know how to use a pedestrian crossing. And somebody in the city may find it very strange that, this is something everybody knows. Even animals seem to know how to cross pedestrian crossings. Urbanized animals, and then you don't know it. But because you don't have the frame of reference to start off, then you find it difficult. I always recall very early in my own training, doing programming as a student, and the tutor saying that you never make an error in computing. There's always, and it's even better now because all the technology is idiot-proof. It tells you where you're going wrong, and you could go back and correct it. So never be afraid to delve into technology. And that's a distinction between older persons and younger people. Younger people take chances, older people don't. And hence the reason why they feel more at ease getting into technology. So essentially, the proponents of technology for aging people and senior citizens have to recognize these issues and make the use of technology as seamless as is possible. The little experience we faced a few minutes ago, somebody else would just walked away and said, well, you see me, I'm finished with this. This is not working for me. So these are the issues, some of the main issues that we are facing.
Right, yeah. I'm happy it happened, so we can learn that it happens, but how do you, deal with it?
Right.
Try a different method. So I'm happy that happened. Okay, so moving along, the UN declared 2021 to 2030 as the decade of healthy aging, urging governments, civil society, international agencies, professionals, academia, the media, and the private sector to collectively work towards improving the lives of older people, their families, the communities in which they live. How can electronic communications providers and regulators contribute to achieving this goal?
Right, certainly this has to be a very holistic approach to dealing with aging. And ICT and technologies essentially can be cross-cutting in that holistic approach. So as you apply solutions related to health, related to housing, related to transportation, related to food and nutrition, ICT can be applied to all of them. Related to ongoing education as well, because you would like a lot of the senior persons to benefit from ongoing education, but more critically related to communication, because this is where some people may feel left out because of the omnipresence of certain types of technologies used or certain types of media options that are used. The tendency now for organizations to really give priority to social media as the preferred choice of dissemination of information obviously puts some seniors at a disadvantage for the very same reasons I mentioned earlier on. So in addressing these, what one has to do is to always bear in mind that the options, no matter how costly they may be initially, have to be available. And I think this is where the regulator comes in and the institution come in. Because in the normal scheme of things where businesses exist to make profits, to make sure that they don't go under, they will not get into any ventures which are not viable financially or economically. So I think regulators ought to put some level of obligation on service providers, of course, with conditions to ensure that there's no inherent discrimination against certain demographics in our society, largely because of their natural conditions, which includes aging. So I think that should be the approach. And we cannot rely solely on the providers of the technologies, but those who are responsible for setting the institutional conditions under which the technologies are implemented in our societies.
Thanks, Mr. Charles. What are some of the opportunities presented by the digital world to empower older people and support them in their quest to enjoy long and healthy lives?
Yeah, there are quite a few opportunities. I mean, what is prominent now, and the only set of examples we have with us, and I'll try to get to some examples in the Caribbean, but certainly in the developed world, is in the area of health. You would realize lots of gadgets are being peddled for seniors so they can take their own blood pressures, they can monitor their heart rates, and that information can go in real time to their caregivers who may not be at home with them. There's also the issue of security, where they can send information to families, to caregivers of any security threats, because they can communicate this information in real time. And as we get deeper into faster technologies for communication, 4G and 5G, you make it much safer for people to live on their own, because sometimes they don't even have to get involved. If something goes wrong with them, for instance, the temperature in the room changes. The gadgets speak to other gadgets. They don't even have time to call the daughter and say, well, okay, I think the heater isn't working anymore. That heater would send information to a device in the house, and that device will communicate with a device probably in a house across the Atlantic. And this family member can essentially inform or advise someone to go and look after this person because something is wrong in the house. So I think this is just a small case. In the case of the Caribbean, what we have seen happen a lot is that, in the past, because most of us have to go overseas for further education, for enhancing ourselves in one way or the other, and the means of communication used to be letters or the expensive phone calls, the trunk calls as we call them in the past. Right now, it's easier for people to go FaceTime and see conditions in which their loved ones live, and they have more information on which to make decisions. And I think this is how the technology can assist in improving the quality of life of aging people.
Right. Now, I love those examples you gave. I remember reading an article preparing for this show, and I think it was somewhere in Japan or China where they had robots at the start of COVID living with older people. And the robots would engage them, I guess, so they don't become too lonely. And they would also enable them to send text messages to their family members. And I thought, my goodness, when would we experience such a thing in the Caribbean?
Yeah, well, that is, I think, the issue of robotics and artificial intelligence and automation is a question of time before it gets here. And again, when I mentioned earlier about one of the biggest factors affecting the ability of seniors to engage technology is affordability. And you have the solutions already out there, but getting them to these people is sometimes prohibitive. And I'm sure in St. Lucia, you have some families who can afford it, who have home assistant gadgets in their house. You have the automatic chairs taking you from point A to point B in the house and so forth. So all of this is available, but it's a question of affordable.
Okay, that's true. All right, so older persons are usually a conduit of knowledge and rich experiences that can be used to enrich our communities. Do you have any suggestions on how we can explore using digital technologies to capture their knowledge for the betterment of our region?
Oh, yes. Of course, you know, digital technologies has the capacity to capture more information than analog technologies in terms of its cost. It's more cost effective. That's a start. So the trouble we went through capturing the stories of older people a long time and sort of transcribing all of that to a readable format, it's much easier now. So from the point of view of basic research. Secondly, everyone has a gadget in his or her hands. A smartphone is essentially one of the main research tools you could have now. So stories can be captured both in terms of the audio component as well as the visual components. And the more information you have about people and about their living conditions, you're better able you are to analyze these conditions and help improve those conditions. I mean, for me, personally, as someone who has worked, still continues to work in the area of culture and the creative arts, there's no end to the possibilities of the use of ICT for culture and creative arts. And whereas you cannot sometimes bring the senior person to a particular location, you could bring the story to the location in real time. Live streaming of stories is becoming so fashionable now. You can capture it recorded. It can be done on demand at any time. When they are able to watch it, they watch it at their time. They can pause it. They can replay it. And they can interrogate it at times if it is properly done. It is probably produced for interrogation. So you have all these possibilities of ICT in the area of culture and history and so forth.
That's why I asked that questions, because I know you're also involved in culture. All right, so according to the an ITU study, the silver economy has been considered as the new green by the Global Coalition on Aging, which estimates that its market value amounts to $17 trillion. The longevity or silver economy, defined as the sum of all economic activities serving the needs of older adults, has grown in recent decades at a significant pace. How can entrepreneurs, investors, and service providers in the Eastern Caribbean tap into this economy?
Well, I think the area is still green. The how is identifying the specific requirements of the senior citizens and so forth. We know, for instance, that there's a lot of voice to text technology these days. And in our region, I think one of the ways that we haven't captured this, capitalized on this, is to develop the apps that could train some of the technologies for our own language idiosyncrasies in the Caribbean, our own vernacular. Right now, I think there is a software called Dragon Speaking or something like this, where you could actually do it. But there is still a challenge because it is trained initially for a certain intonation of an English language or a Spanish language in Europe. And I think this is one of the possibilities. The second area goes back to what I mentioned about health. We need to have affordable technologies for assisting in caregiving of the seniors. Right now, since about the last 10 years or so, the issue of caregiving in St. Lucia and the Caribbean has become a big industry now, where you have lots of people who have been trained to take care of seniors, but at a very basic level. I think what has to be done now to take this up a scale is to identify the technologies that can assist them in their work and then train people to use these technologies. All the caregivers have phones, have smartphones, I'm sure, with apps. Some of them, because of my own experience with having to interact with caregivers who take care of some members of my family, their smartphones are sometimes more expensive smartphones than mine, and usually very large screens. So there's a possibility for them to be trained using apps that can be developed in the Caribbean to communicate in real time to the doctors, to the healthcare professionals about the conditions of these senior citizens which they take care of. Because the way it works out, you have the health caregivers report to a supervisor who may have some medical training. And I think we can have this happening because it happens in other parts of the world. So I think this is an area where it could happen here. And as I mentioned earlier, the question of the apps that can help us capture our own history. This is a big part of the silver economy. The stories of our aging citizens are not written, and I think they have to be written. And we have lots of stories which have not been told as yet. And before they cannot be told, I think we need to get them told.
And the sad thing is we've been saying this for years. So I'm hoping that it will get done sooner rather than later before we lose some of this rich information.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we asked a number of people in Castries the following question: how have you adapted to the use of technology? I am hoping that the video will play. But however, if it does not, and if the quality is poor, just let me know. And what I will do is post it afterwards so persons can watch it and interact with it. So just let me know if the quality is not all that. Okay, Mr. Charles?
Okay, yeah.
Share my screen. And you just indicate if you're hearing it and seeing it, okay?
I'm hearing it clearly. I'm hearing you.
On May 17th, the world observed World Telecommunication and Information Society Day under the theme, Digital Technologies for Older Persons and Healthy Aging. And so ECTEL decided to go to the streets of Castries to ask persons, how have you adapted to the use of technology? So let's hear what they have to say.
At the moment, I've adapted really well because right now it's become part of my, my well-being, my life. I can't do without it. I mean, everything is technical stuff, and I think that it's part of the whole life right now. Everybody's life. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has some kind of a device that must use the technology.
Right now, technology is so advanced. To me, it's so thing because anything I want to do, and I want to get for fast, it's through technology. I could use my computer. I could use my laptop. You know, sometimes if I want to get a certain song, it's through technology. Just go on the laptop and just press it, and I get it. So I think technology is a real good use right now.
Technology has improved my life dramatically. My whole business is being run right now by a touch in the palm of my hand. Anything you want, any app right now. I just lost my wife. I'm looking for her on my GPS. Everything is there. If I need to call somebody right now, I have a list of the, you know who they are on my phone. So that's what we need for St. Lucia. Because if we had GPS, you would not need to tell people, pass by that White House on the left side. You would have come straight, put the address, and you will get there on time.
Technology, I think it's been a really positive plus for us in the world of business. Sometimes I wonder if we're actually arrived at that beautiful place in St. Lucia, because we're still lagging behind on so many levels, and not because we do not have the capacity here, but it seems that there is sometimes a resistance to the use of technology by a lot of businesses, especially in our government offices, and it makes business really difficult. And we often speak about the ease of doing business in St. Lucia. I don't know that we have actually arrived at there, because there are so many things that we can use with the use of technology to actually make that happen, and we're not doing that. But it's been a plus because everything now is it's available to you. You can do your training, you can do business, you can conduct business, and not just business in St. Lucia. You can actually now conduct business worldwide. I can sit in St. Lucia now and set up a company in the US. I can't do that in St. Lucia though.
I would advise people, when you go on there, look for the things like history and stuff, especially Bible stuff. Learn more about God, you know, get to learn about the Bible and what is coming upon us, especially in these last days we are living in. And recently the UN was here. If we know the plan of the UN, it is online. We can go there and check it out, ask information, because when you ask questions, they do answer you. They might not give you the correct answer, but you do get information when you go online.
Honestly, I have adapted to it very well, because without technology, there is nothing you can do. Before, we were adapting to life the way it came, but when you got to know about technology, life became better. And right now, people are so used to it. I am so used to it that there are lots of things I cannot do without it. It is very good. I've adapted myself to it. I like it, and it's like just a touch of your phone, a touch of the button, and you get all the information or everything you need. I think technology right now is just boosting up people's intelligence, and it is taking you way over around the world where you don't even have to pay a ticket to go. And even into books and things, you don't need to go. You just call up Google, you Google anything, you get what you want. Even yourself, you can treat with technology. So technology is a very good thing. Depends on how you use it.
Technology, it has helped me a lot. To tell you the truth, I've changed my life on technology. I've, especially on YouTube, listening to the motivational speakers and these things. I have a set of them I listen to every morning, every night before I go to bed. And certain things I want to know about healthy eating and different things, about mental health and things. I go on the internet, I Google, I do certain numbers I want for businesses in St. Lucia. I usually Google and do. It has helped me a lot. It's very helpful.
I serve computer, I serve WhatsApp, I serve pass the telephone money.
Myself and my family, we have adapted to the use of technology by, of course, adapting it, getting equipment, for whether it is telephones, everybody has a telephone these days, whether it be telephones to communicate, to use WhatsApp, social media. Within our family, we do a few little things. Some of my kids have their own little businesses, and they use WhatsApp to develop groups that make it possible for them to whether sell or ship at using economies of scale locally and regionally. Also, personally, I work as the permanent secretary of the Caribbean Customs Law Enforcement Council, and technology is really everything, because our council has 39 members, which includes Europe, part of Europe, the entire West Indies, most of Central America and the northern coast of South America, and how we communicate is using technology. And especially after the COVID period, a number of our council meetings and executive committee meetings were held using Zoom and other forms of of media. And also in our organization, we use technology to develop a host of different tools. For example, the regional clearance system, which is a facilitation tool that is employed by many customs within the region and beyond for the entering and clearing of sailing yachts, and now we're moving into catering for merchant vessels and cruise vessels, and also other tools, technological tools, for example, business intelligence system that sits upon customs data system to analyze the data to identify revenue leakage in order to solve this problem. So surely we have adapted to the use of technology, but personally, myself, my family, but also on my job, and I could see you using technology. Great way to communicate. Thank you very much.
I think you have some echo.
The echo is back.
Oh, okay, I can hear you now. It's better.
Okay, awesome. So as you saw the video clearly and you heard everything. Okay, awesome. So what I liked about that, Mr. Charles, is that almost everybody spoke about something different. Somebody spoke about spirituality, learning about God. Somebody spoke about mental health and healthy eating and listening to motivational speakers. Somebody spoke about the ease of doing business. What are your thoughts on this? And I'm not sure if you saw the elderly lady who said she doesn't have a phone, she doesn't use WhatsApp, she doesn't know anything about technology. What are your thoughts on some of what you heard and saw?
Yeah, well, my thoughts before I hope I don't have to use GPS to find my wife. I find it strange that this, but I think when you analyze the comments, you're quite right. Everybody said something different, but also what it meant. Some of them address the issues of the use of technology devices. Some of them analyze the issues of connectivity, which is something because the added value in the use of technology for the society is the quality of connectivity. Because we can all live on our own with devices, but if, for instance, we cannot access information, we do not know if the guy can't find his wife because he's using GPS, then there's no point in the use of the technology for him, because the address will be in his phone, but it won't be located in any broader mapping systems to help him find his wife. So the connectivity is important. And also the access and the affordability was also raised when the lady said that she only has her phone, she doesn't have a smartphone. So it brings us to two issues generally. One is that for aging people, we need to ensure that technology really enhances, but doesn't displace what they do, because they still want to be able to visit their friends. They still want to be able to talk to people using the traditional methods and so forth. So it is not displaced. Secondly, quality of service is fundamental to getting technology to be of any use to our society. And as regulators, ECTEL has to ensure that the consumer and the quality of service to the consumer is at the heart of the issue. My mother is about to turn 90. She's a member of a church group. She has her meetings on Zoom. She has a tablet. She uses her smartphone. She has an ordinary house phone to use. When the smartphone, the internet drops. But unfortunately these days, our service providers are they're migrating all their services to the same platform. So, if one line in your house collapses, you have no communication at all, except if you have a cell phone with sufficient, credits, or you have a plan that you could make limitless calls. But for me, I'm a digital native, so I have adapted to technology from day one. I mean, when I tell young people my first computer was a Gateway computer, they don't even know what Gateway is. A brand that doesn't even sell laptops anymore. And at university, I used computers. I did a little bit of programming where I used to use punch cards. If I asked them what's a punch card, they didn't know what a punch card looks like anymore. You have to walk around with your punch cards in your bag. And if one gets lost, then woe be unto you. You have to go and do the whole assignment all over again. So, and right now, the adaptation is that you spend less time on the line and more time online. So a lot of business activities are virtual. And so it's not a problem for me, but I still find that there are lots of people who are 65 and up who are not necessarily digital natives. They have a large percentage of them, not everybody, a large percentage have issues of adaptation because of the points I raised earlier, which is the general conditions of people who are aging, as well as issues of affordability and access.
I'm curious, Mr. Charles, you said your mom is 90 and she uses Zoom on her laptop or her tablet to do her service and so on. Did she adapt to this naturally, or did you have to teach her?
Well, we taught her, and the thing about the technology, once you set it up, there's less for the person who is using it to do. Is the setting up is usually what takes all the time. And that's why I was speaking earlier about making it seamless to them. You give them instructions that are very seamless and simple, and very few instructions to access. Go through the hassle of setting it up, and then so she know where the links are. She know the YouTube gadget on your device. You know the icon for YouTube, and if you subscribe to certain services, naturally once you log on, your subscriptions pop up almost immediately. So there's no need to go and search anymore. And the same applies in using her smartphone for WhatsApp calls. You're programming all the names of the people for which she are familiar, how she called them, not their baptismal or citizen's name. You put the names by which they're known. So if somebody is called Matitin, you put Matitin on the phone. So when it pops up, you know it's Matitin, not Elvira Johnson who's calling, but Matitin is calling. So these are kind of things one has to do to move from their space into the digital space to make them comfortable. But she's quite comfortable.
Okay, excellent. You know, we're a bit over time, and that's because we had all the technical issues at the beginning. So we're about to wrap up, but there was one lady in specific, I remember. I encouraged her to do the Vox Pop, but she literally said, no, I will not go on TV or Facebook and admit that I cannot use technology because my friends and family would laugh me to scorn. I said, but this is good. It's showing that, you know, not everybody is familiar or used to it. So we want a variety of responses. And she literally ran away saying, no, she's not going to do it. So there are so many persons out there, you know, and I guess it like what you did with your mother. If we have a bit of knowledge, what prevents us from sharing that or setting up somebody else, especially the older folks, so they can, you know, be kept in tune with what's happening in society?
Yeah. I mean, one last thing is that we didn't speak a lot about is the issue of personal safety and privacy of information. I always caution people, once your fingerprint is on the internet or on that device, you're likely to be captured or seen anywhere. This is a possibility. So if you don't want it, just don't get into it. There's always the give and take because there's nothing comes for free. You want an app, the app asks you for information. There's a possibility that your personal data would be used for marketing and purposes like that. So just prepare yourself. If you're okay with it, then it's a give and take, you compromise. If you feel very strongly about it and you feel that you still want to be an alien to the digital world, it's your choice. But we always have to ensure that we don't only promote the benefits, but some of the pitfalls are also put before them to allow them to make an informed choice.
Right. No, and just as we wrap up, something you said, and I'd love you to just speak on it a little bit, is how can we keep older persons safe from the scammers and all these other persons who are waiting to prey on them online? What's the advice you give to them?
Well, the best advice is to minimize the exposure. You only give them these devices that and the applications that are necessary for them. Secondly, I think security as an approach is general. You know, whether it's a device or in your home, just be security conscious all the time. I mean, you don't walk around with your digital phone exposed. Keep it in your bag. You don't walk around with your access cards exposed. Keep them secure. And we have all sorts of gadgets now to protect you from unwanted infrared or radiation or any type of invisible access to your devices. So basic security is important, and also to minimize the amount of exposure.
All right. I realize you could go on, but I'll have to stop here because I know you're probably very busy. But this was really interesting, and I'm so thankful to you for spending the time with us for our 12th episode of ECTEL Bytes, Mr. Charles. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
So many of us have older persons in our lives. As such, this show was indeed timely as it equipped us with basic knowledge to better support older persons and their interaction with digital technologies. And in case you communications and ICT consultant, any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section, and we'll be sure to reply afterwards. On our Facebook page, the recording of ECTEL Bytes will also be on our YouTube channel. So just ECTEL. So be sure to joining us, and we hope to see you again virtually on June 22nd for another episode of ECTEL Bytes. Is aired on the 4th Wednesday of every month from 2 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time. Thanks so much for watching. So I like the stream. That was really good.